All right, it says we're live. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And we've got a special guest. We've got Keepercain back again tonight. And you might remember he was on several weeks ago and talked about his tarantulas and so forth. And that was a real fun stream and learned a lot on there. So tonight we thought we'd do something a little more domestic, and we're talking the other day, and I asked him if he would come back and talk about his reptiles, and how he got them and why he has the ones he has, and he suggested that he'd even go on and talk about the ones that he didn't keep, that didn't work out for him and why. So it sounds like a real interesting chat, and we're informal, of course, and anybody has a question, just pop it in there. We'll keep an eye out for it. Pam's good about watching for the comments. And Susie's not with us. She's sick tonight. And Mike may be running late, or he may not be here, so we'll watch for him. So, and Pam and I are going to do it together tonight. Be the two of us, so I think we can handle it. So, and I'm supposed to always give our little spiel, our little mission statement, which is that we're a group, a panel of cold-blooded fish keepers that also have reptiles, and we love our reptiles, but our channels and our followers don't really are not as enthralled with our reptiles as they are our fish. So we banded together and take turns streaming, and we use the central source of a Facebook page called Reptales, and that's where we advertise our streams and our guests and that kind of thing. So check it out if you haven't. It's Reptales on Facebook. And that's all I've got to say. I could talk for 10 minutes, it seems like. I'm going to say welcome to all the guests, and thank you everybody for being here, and thank you moderators that are here. And Cain, I'll be quiet and let you talk a little bit. Do you want me to blow you up a little bit so we can see you snake?
Oh, that's fine. You can.
How about if I blow you up for a while? I'll do it back and forth, like a high class production kind of thing, like it makes sense.
Yeah. So this is my buddy Noodle here. He was my first ball python. He's the star of the show. I start every episode with him, and if I do a live stream, I have him on with me. So he's definitely my baby of all my animals and my favorite. And I'll have him forever. But yeah. So as far as the reptiles I enjoy, I went through and tried a few different things, and you got to figure out what you like and what you enjoy. And for me, I fare towards the easier things, or what I consider easy. All of your animals, you got to put in work and take good care of them, and do your due diligence. But definitely, some animals require a lot more care and conditions than others. So, for one, the snakes, I probably enjoy snakes more than anything, and mainly ball pythons. They're pretty laid back and pretty easy to care for. Some people feed once a week, some people feed twice. I personally feed every other. I personally feed every other week for my adults. Of course, if I had a hatchling or a smaller one, I'd still feed every week. But and then maintenance isn't too bad either. They're just really, really laid back species to work with. Same way with the tarantulas that I keep. We've talked about. They're pretty easy as well. I feed them every 1 to 2 weeks, and there's not really much maintenance other than cleaning up leftover bugs or changing their water.
Now, the reason you feed the newborns or the hatchlings more is, of course, because they're growing, just like we feed our fish the fry more because they're growing fast.
Right. Yeah, just like the expression, he's a growing boy, he needs to eat. Same way with, any younger animal.
Right.
anything that's younger isn't conditioned to go long periods of time without food, whereas an adult snake is definitely more conditioned for that.
He's getting feisty, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes he's good, sometimes he's wild, but I love him none the same.
I was trying to guess his morph, and I won't. He's some kind of stripe.
He's
Uh,
go ahead.
well, I can't see him that good, but I'm not sure. Is he a highway? I can't really see his stripe that well. Oh, he's got a lot of stuff going on. He's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Now, does he have any? I don't know. What is he?
Well, he's pinstriped, and then he's het pied, so he doesn't have the visual pied gene, but he carries it.
Okay. So he can pass it on.
Right. Yeah, I've currently got him paired up with a banana het pied, so hopefully get some bananas and some pins and combinations. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get a pied. But
I think you were
always
showing.
much fun.
So how many breeding females do you have?
Currently, I have 3 pairs of ball pythons. So I've got 6 snakes, 3 females and 3 males.
Is he the one that was you had a lock with the snake a day or two ago, and you were showing?
Yeah. Yeah, he's
she's
actually all of them are locking up for me really good right now. I can't complain at all. There was one pair that didn't the first time I put them together, but now I think they're more than any of the rest of them.
That's great. Awesome. So now, do you do like genetically before you pair them? I'm assuming so, but you know what you're going to get, like percentages of what his offspring will look like him and like her, and then what other things. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now with him and the banana het pied, there's a 16 variation. So you got 1 in 16 odds for multiple things, which in one sense is good because only 1/16 of those odds I have a chance of getting a normal. So, I have just as high odds to not get any normals. And for my other 2 pairs, I have a super Mojave and a super lesser, which are all white snakes, the blue-eyed leucistics. And every single one of their babies will be lesser Mojaves, and they'll be blue-eyed leucistics. And then my 3rd pair is an albino pied to a albino het pied. So half will be albino pied and half will be albino het pied.
Nice. I saw my first in person blue-eyed Lucy today at my local fish store. He was telling me somebody had to turn 3 snakes in, and he was a huge male. I think they said he was 1,800 grams. He was the biggest male I've seen. And,
Oh, yeah.
$800. I said, no, I just have to look at him.
Everybody loves the white snake. They are stunning. Something about that solid white looks really good.
Yeah.
Now, conceivably, because I realize that you have different pairs and stuff and different kinds of snakes, but conceivably, if you had we're just doing one main breeding of one type, could one male service more than one female, or do you pretty much one-time shot and he's good for the season?
No, so actually, like you said, one male, most people will suggest up to 3, but people have literally went up to 10 or 11 different females. But when you start playing with those odds, you're stretching really thin. Some people have had success with, they'll spread to 10 females and all 10 females away. But you're gambling a little more, and you're wearing out your male a little more.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if it
Is there like
Yeah.
A limit on how much he could do.
is there a
Yeah,
typical
3 is
rest period?
3's pretty good suggestion.
Would you rest the snake a minimum period of time before the next female, or?
So not with the males, not really. So you pair it 3 days at a time, but you're still feeding in the process. And when you feed, you have to wait 2 or 3 days after you feed before you pair up again, or they could regurgitate. So if you're running 3 different females and you want 3 days apiece, you almost have to just keep them going from one to the next. You know, that way you can hurry and get them off, give them time to feed, time to rest, and then get back on again.
Wow. And you feed frozen thawed, is that right? Or?
So it's a little controversial, but I feed live. A lot of people frown upon feeding live, and I can understand why. But you know, the feeding response is so much better. I have no issues out of feeding whatsoever, and in the wild they would be eaten live, in my opinion. So you know, I don't stress about it too much. If I saw that my snakes were getting hurt in the process a lot, then I would change. But one thing I should also mention is I feed ASFs and not rats. So I think that the ASFs aren't as bad as the rats as far as chewing up on their snakes go.
Yeah. How long does the snake, once she has locked with the male, what is it, like 60 days, or how quick do they lay their eggs?
Well, it all depends. It depends on her follicles, if she's developed follicles or not. So you know, it's not like I say it's family friendly. It's not like with people. It's, you know, where it can just happen. With the snakes, the female has to have follicles in order for her to do anything with it. But a lot of people use an ultrasound and see when the follicles are starting to grow, and then they'll pair. And then there's people that do what I do, and they just pick a time of year and they just start pairing up. Once, what most people do is 3 days, once a month for 4 months. Now, since I don't have many snakes, I'm doing 3 days every 2 weeks for 4 months. But you're hoping in that period of time that if she doesn't have follicles, she'll start developing. So, you know, she could get pregnant right at the beginning of the breeding, or it could be right towards the end. It's hard to say. But some people believe, like I believe, pairing up a snake encourages that female to start building follicles. Some people think that she just does it when she does it, no matter what. But I think that, you know, going ahead and pairing them up encourages it.
Are you able to to run your hand down them and see if you feel the follicles? I've seen people do that.
Yeah, palpating. I haven't mastered it yet. I'm trying to learn, of course. But I think it's one of those things that, you know, once you've handled 100 snakes and done it a bunch, you get good at it.
Right. So you said that the ball python was the first snakes that you kept. Are they the only ones that you've got now, or?
No, so I have my 6 ball pythons, and I actually have one on hold on Morph Market, so soon to be 7. But I also have a Burmese python. She's just a regular jigsaw pattern. It's a female. She's probably about 4.5 foot. She's still a baby.
Yeah.
Her name's Tiny.
Yeah, it's appropriate for her. Yeah.
Right.
So why do you why ball pythons? I mean, a lot of people say, as far as reptiles, that bearded dragons or horned snakes or some other things are entry level pets. Certainly ball pythons are, but why them?
Well, For me, now I don't have any colubrids myself, although I do enjoy them. I mean, I enjoy all reptiles, but with colubrids, they're a little more bitey. I mean, I'm not saying it's a big deal. A lot of people have very, very tame colubrids, but it is more of a risk. And then you have to brumate them as well, and that can be intimidating for some people. The thought of putting their snake down for a few months, and so there's some different things like that. The activeness, a lot of colubrid snakes, they require a lot more activity and space to move around and things, whereas the ball python is pretty content at staying balled up. Um, Bearded dragons, I've got a bearded dragon. Or it's my wife's, it's ours, but I think they're pretty good entry level just because of their behavior. They're really friendly and easy to handle. But then, there's a lot more that goes into it. You need the UVB, you need the heat, you need the insects and the vegetation, and they take up a lot more room. So I think somebody that's new could definitely, keep a bearded dragon successfully. But I think it's definitely a lot easier for a ball python.
The hardest thing for me at first, and now it's so obvious to me, was with the first ball python, I did not recognize defensive behavior. So I almost got bit several times. I didn't. I have since then, but there's a big difference in defensive striking and thinking it's striking at a mouse.
Yeah. Well, I guess one thing I should have mentioned too as well is generally the adults they're not very defensive. Don't get me wrong, all animals got their own personality and you can get one that way. But for the most part, it's usually the babies that are more bitey. And then the bite's not as big a deal if they do. But as far as easiness goes, I would have to say that ball python probably my number 2 pick. I would say my number 1 pick would actually be crested geckos. I keep those as well.
Right. So now, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
So how will you know? Have you had a snake lay eggs before?
I haven't.
Oh, okay. So this is new.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
So what will you be watching for? What might be besides the time frame?
Well, like you said, the time frame. I know about how much time when they should start, and then a lot of the telltale sign is when the female goes off food. So she'll quit eating because, like I said earlier, the whole time you're breeding, you're still actively feeding your snakes. But once that female starts to develop those eggs, she'll go off of food, and then you'll know, that she must be getting ready.
Do you know how long the eggs take to hatch?
I think it was 60 to 90 days, somewhere in there. I'm not for sure on the exact number right off my head, but I want to say it was like that 2 to 3 month mark.
Yeah.
Most things are like that. Most all reptiles are around 2 to 3 months, it seems like.
So you have an incubator already to put the eggs in?
I do. Yeah, I've got a big Coke fridge that's converted into an incubator.
Awesome.
The only thing I still like getting is a hatchling rack. But I figure as soon as the eggs start popping out, I got time to hurry and get a hatchling rack and I'll be good to go.
Grasshopper's saying, what's the gestation period?
Gestation,
I guess from inception to laying the eggs, I guess. It's gestation.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say I'm a country boy, so I'm not the greatest at big words sometimes. But it's almost a whole year process from the time you start pairing your snakes up. You got the 4 months that you're pairing them up. Then you got a few months where the female goes off food and she's developing eggs. Then once she lays, you've got another 2 or 3 months until they hatch. And then as far as selling goes, you usually want to get 5 meals in your hatchlings before you sell them. So by about the time you're getting that 5th, 6th meal in your hatchlings that you've had for a month or two, now it's time to start pairing up again. So it's almost just a complete rotation. You almost just stay in that cycle. So I would say from breeding to baby is probably around 9 to 10 months. But it's like I said, you're almost a full cycle.
I wonder how long a snake will breed. I mean, how long?
As far as staying locked up, or?
No, as far as how many years they'll produce eggs.
Well, now I don't know about as far as people that actively paired them up, but as far as they can tell, they can breed until their death, because the oldest snake in history, I forget, it was like 40 or 60 years old. It was in a zoo. I know that's a big gap, 40 to 60, but bear with me. It was somewhere in that range. And the female laid eggs without a male, and at that old age. So, they're a long-lived animal, and as far as anybody can tell, they're good for breeding. Some people will give their snake a break every 2 or 3 years from breeding, but a lot of people never do, and there's never been any complications that's been seen from it. So they're little workhorses, that's for sure.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Now, when yours get close to hatching and they start hatching, will you assist their opening? Will you cut them, as they say, or?
I think I'm gonna follow the let the first one pip and then cut method. I probably will cut. Another topic, that's two sides. I don't personally see an issue with it. The evidence and the facts are there. Thousands and thousands of eggs cut and no complications. And then they say, if the snake doesn't develop an egg tooth, and then it gets trapped in the egg and drowns, you could lose that snake. And some people would say, well, let nature take its course. But I mean, if that snake doesn't develop an egg tooth, that's not going to hinder its life. It's that tooth falls off. So just because it didn't develop that tooth doesn't mean we shouldn't make sure that they get hatched out. So I probably will wait. I won't cut before something pips, but once the first one pips out, then I'll go ahead and cut the rest.
I've seen all kinds of like that tooth can drop off in a few hours to a few days. So that kind of makes you wonder if some of them drop off, when they're trying to get out.
Right, that's true. Yeah, it's a wild thing, but I don't think it hurts the animal. And I've seen studies where some animals that are cut develop quicker than the ones that pipped on their own, time-wise. So, if I saw an issue with it humanely, I wouldn't, but I just don't see one.
Right. Now, once they're born, will you take them away from the mother, or will you take the eggs away long before that? Or?
Yeah. So as soon as the eggs are laid, you go ahead and get a little Tupperware bowl and get this vermiculite and add some water to it and put them in the incubator. So you can do a maternal incubation. There's videos of people doing it, but there's a lot of money on the line, so I don't want to risk her being a bad mom and losing the eggs. So I'll incubate them, and then once they're incubated, they'll all go in or once they hatch, I should say, they'll all go in their own separate containers.
never thought about that. What could a mother do that not turn them or?
Well, no. Now, reptile eggs don't turn like chicken eggs. So reptile eggs is actually the opposite. You don't want them to turn. Whatever position you find them in, a lot of people will take and mark the tops of them with a marker.
I've seen
Because,
that. Yeah.
yeah, now it's not proven, but it's one of those things why take the risk. Because it is with some reptiles, they will drown. The embryo will attach to one part of the egg, and however the eggs were laid, they'll attach to the top of the egg. And so if you then flip the egg over, you could drown the embryo.
Oh.
So with ball pythons, that's not proven. But once again, why take the risk,
Right.
And but she could just not sit on them good and keep them warm. They could lose temperature. She could kick them out or squash them, or a lot of things could go wrong with that process. But they do it in nature, so they can do it in captivity. I think it would be a cool thing to experience to do once. Maybe if you had a couple normals, and you wasn't so worried about losing the money part. Just to say you did that would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah. They sure want to protect them. I've seen them pull eggs, not just from ball pythons, but boas and other things, and they really want to protect those eggs.
Yeah.
What do you do? Let's see. Let me blow that up. What do you do if a baby is born with an undesirable trait, a deformity?
So, of course, now this is my first year of breeding, so I can't say that I've crossed that road yet. But it, to me, depends on the severity of the deformity. So, if it was just a slight kink, or something that wasn't really inhibiting the snake too bad, I would probably consider just selling it as a pet-only snake, not to be rebred, and inform somebody of the issue it has, and basically not try to make much money off of it, but try to find it a good home so that it can live. But if something comes out with way too many deformities and it's just going to have a really bad life or not going to make it at all, then I personally believe in euthanizing it. It's not a fun thing to do, but nature takes care of that on its own, and right now we're playing nature, so it's kind of our duty to make sure if something's really bad out of whack that we have to take care of it. And if there was a pair that put off a lot of deformities, don't run that pair again. Don't keep producing deformities, because that's no fun either. But I'm hoping I don't have to go down that route, because while I do have the heart to do what I got to do, I still love the animals, and that would be a little rough.
There's some guy named Molinera or something, and he kind of puts like a magic spin or like dark magic or something on his, and I see him on Instagram mostly, but he sells his things that are stillborn and stuff. He puts them in solution and all that, and so that they serve some purpose, that they weren't born for no reason. So, and he sells those for, of course, greatly reduced price, for pretty cool things. He shows them every now and then.
Yeah, I went to a reptile store one time that had a lot of preserved jars up on the shelves where they had saved a bunch of theirs.
B&T's Radical Boas and Pythons says, what is your absolute favorite morph in ball pythons? Oh, great question.
Hey, Brandon. That's Brandon. He's a cool dude. You should definitely check out his channel.
I haven't heard of him. I'll be checking him out right after this.
Yeah, give him a view. He's a really cool guy. So for me, my favorite, now, if we're just talking, so we'll say recessive and codom. For recessive, I would have to say a piebald, and for codom, I'd have to say banana. I mean, I know they're old school, and a lot of people would say that they're not as exciting as a lot of the new stuff. but they're popular for a reason. They've made it this long in all these years for a reason. They're really stunning snakes, and some guys are more into the genetic style, and some guys are more into the I want to make a pretty snake, and I'm the pretty snake guy. I want it to look really cool, you know.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick like an all-time, what I really want is I would love to have an axanthic pied, a black and white and gray pied. Those are really sweet, but they're also really expensive.
I bet.
Hello, Michelle Fritz Wallace.
Oh,
Hey, Michelle.
yeah, that's my wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She's my number one fan.
She keeps fish and things too. I've seen her on a video or two, I believe.
Yeah, she of course we always say all the animals are ours, but I definitely have some animals that are more mine, and she has some that are more hers. I would say I'm the more wild one as far as it goes. Like, I don't have to worry about her filling rooms with animals, but she does have to worry about me doing it. But she still loves them. She talks to them and babies them.
Let's see, Brandon's. Oh, they're posting his links.
Yeah, definitely go hook my man up. He's trying to get some subscribes. He's a good, really nice guy, and he's got a good family-friendly channel.
How many
Definitely worth checking out.
subscribers does he have, Mods? Sam, how many does he have now?
I'm not for sure, but he's still working his way up there. I'm sure he'll probably let you know in the chat. But definitely need to help him climb up.
So he keeps boas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he mostly keeps boas, but he keeps ball pythons too. And then he breeds rats and mice, and I don't know. He may have something else going on in the background, but that's what I know as far as that's advertised on his channel.
You know, your voice has always reminded me. I mean, I haven't known you that long, but it reminds me of somebody, and I just figured out who it is. He sounds
Who's
like
that?
Rat Cross.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you know Rat?
who is it now?
Rat Cross.
I'm not for sure.
He was at the big fish thing in Knoxville several months ago, and he does fish and birding, and he changes around all the time to different
Art.
things. Art. He's an awesome artist. He does abstract art, but he lives more east of Knoxville, over in the town
Oh.
that there's two and one in Bristol. He lives in Bristol over that way.
Huh. There's a good chance I've probably seen him on social media or something, and I just, once I saw the profile picture of the name, I might be like, oh, I've seen him around.
Yeah.
There's
We've
a,
had him on. We've
Have
had
you-
him on here, so
I'll have to go check the video out.
yeah, you sound quite a bit like him, a lot like him.
Yeah, sounds like a lucky guy. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. He has a great voice. I mean, he's, you can understand him when he speaks up.
So, I know we talked a little bit about some of the easier reptiles. The only one I didn't touch on too much was the crested gecko, which, they're very, very easy. Honestly, I think they're easier than ball pythons. They don't need any UVB. Some people give it to them, and you can. That's kind of a rule with all reptiles. Even if they say they don't need it, you still can give it to them. But nonetheless, they're nocturnal, so they don't know. They don't need the UVB. The only thing they really need to live on is a powder diet that you mix with a little water every other day, and you need to keep their enclosure misted down. But they're really simple to keep. They were actually my first reptile. Noodle was my first snake, but crested geckos were my first reptile, and I would suggest them for any beginner. They're super awesome. They're cool looking. They can be taught to be handled pretty good. They're a little jumpy, but they're a great starter. But I do keep a couple reptiles that are a little more work, but it's worth the labor for me. Um, Mainly being my tegu and my redfoot tortoises. Definitely the redfoot tortoises. They require. I personally feel like they require the most care out of any animal I own.
Really?
I think so, just because it's always something every day. They need fed every single day. You might as well say that it doesn't hurt to change their water every day because they'll use the bathroom in it and get it dirty and blah blah blah. They need a high humidity. Their food's not cheap unless you're sourcing it locally. I just think they're a lot more care. You got to keep up on their UVB and their heat. I mentioned that they need calcium, they need vitamins. There's just a lot more that goes into them. But if you like turtles, then the reward of keeping a turtle is pretty awesome.
Where are they native?
They're South America, but and then they require big enclosure space. Most people would suggest keeping them outside as much as you can, but obviously in the winter we have to bring them in, and when you bring them in, you need somewhere to put them. So they need a big enclosure. I just got through building them. I built a 8-foot long by 2.5 foot tall by 3 foot deep enclosure, 2 of them. One for my 3 redfoot tortoises and one for my tegu. That's quite a bit of space to dedicate in your home, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
8 foot by 3 foot's a good little chunk of space.
I would have thought the tegu would be the highest maintenance, but I guess not.
Not to me. I feed him every other day, and I don't have to worry about him using the bathroom and his water as much. And he just feels a little more self-sufficient. But there's different things. It depends on you as a person, I would say. The energy level of my tegu obviously far exceeds the energy level of my turtles. So, and that's a decent sized reptile that, if wanted to, could hurt you. Now, my tegu, I don't put any animal past biting. In the end, they're an animal, But he's very friendly. But I did have another tegu at one time that I rehomed to a guy that specializes in tegus. He's got 8 of them. And she was very aggressive. Anytime I got in the cage, she would try to attack me, or some people would say defensive. You don't say aggressive, but nonetheless, she was a handful. And if you ever see one of those things death roll, like an alligator, they can spin 4 times by the time you blink your eye. So all you can imagine is if they latched onto a finger and did that, it probably wouldn't be too good. So that's not necessarily difficulty, but there's a different aspect or risk that comes with owning them.
Noodle really wants to watch the fish.
Yeah, he probably is. He's probably wondering what the heck's going on back there. He's active tonight. Sometimes he has fell asleep on my neck. Sometimes he'll stay on here and he'll just move around, but he won't come uncoiled. But then sometimes he's like this, but that's fine too.
That made me think of somehow to tie back into when we were talking about temperature and humidity and having to force feed snakes and all. I had the one that I had to force feed, and it was a combination of the humidity not staying consistently high enough was the problem, and the temperature not staying consistently high enough. So that slows their metabolism. I know it doesn't have to be just a constantly low thing. If it's intermittent, it was varying throughout the days what was happening. So the snake wasn't getting hungry. It didn't have any reason to feel like it needed to eat. It was not staying warm enough. And once I got those things figured out and started feeding it, then everything was fine.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of that can affect them. I notice a difference in my animals just from the winter to the summer. Even my rodents, I can tell when it starts getting cooler that everything's eating less. Everything slows down a little bit. But then, same way, the rodents are a big telltale sign. But when it gets hot, they're putting down food like crazy.
Cannibalism cranks up.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
But yeah, that's why I try to limit the amount of high labor animals I keep, like the tegu and the turtles, because one tegu is plenty for me. I don't need multiple tegus. And the same way with the turtles, I have a trio. I have 2 females and a male, and I have no interest in getting any more turtles. I've had plenty of opportunities. I just don't want any more. But with ball pythons or tarantulas or crested geckos, to add on another one is almost basically adding nothing. It's like no extra labor whatsoever to me.
Brandon said I would love to do an interview. To interview, to be interviewed, or to interview Cain, or both.
I would say either way, he's definitely a good guy. You can't go wrong with having him on.
I went ahead and grabbed him, assuming it was to be interviewed. So
yeah, I'd love to hear him talk about his boas too. I don't keep boas like that, but they're really cool. And that's a big animal, and he's got a few of them.
There are some of the dwarf boas, I believe.
Are there?
I don't know.
I know the dwarf retics, but I wasn't aware if there was a dwarf boa.
That's probably what I'm thinking about, is the retics.
Maybe. Now I know they try to work dwarf in, a lot of things. So I know there's other things that have dwarfs. I think I may have heard of a dwarf berm before. I'm not for sure.
And sometimes dwarf means 6 to 8 feet instead of 18 feet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's like with my Burmese python. One is enough for me.
Dan Slee is saying there are dwarf island boas. Okay.
Okay.
I don't remember that particular one, but thanks, Dan.
That is true. Of course, when people say boa, we all think of the BCI and the BCCs, but there are tons of boas, like sand boas and rosy boas and Dumerals boas. There's a lot of different kinds of boas.
Yeah.
That is definitely true.
About the tarantulas, yeah.
I had to make myself stop because it was just, you could get collectoritis with those things because they don't require that much care, they don't take up much space, and there's a million colors and variations. I've got 5, and I have no plans of getting any more because it's just collectoritis at this point. I'm like, 5 is enough for me.
Yeah. I actually looked at tarantulas today at the same store that I was looking at these ball pythons, and then I looked at some a California giant. What are the things that have the stinger that comes over? Very common.
Oh, scorpion?
Yeah, looked at that and I thought, oh, this is only $35. And I'd looked at one a couple of weeks ago somewhere else, and then I had to put that down. I don't need that.
Yeah. They're pretty cool too. I don't keep them myself. The only other invertebrates I keep are isopods, other than tarantulas. But I just keep the regular ones.
They had dairy cow isopods.
That is true. Like you said, they usually do come from islands. That's where the dwarf retics come from, because everything's smaller on an island. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So I can't see the chat, but I can see when you highlight something. So you see me leaning in.
Yeah, I figured. Hey, Patrick. Glad you made it. Awesome.
Yeah, there's definitely other stuff I would love to have. You know,
You don't know?
I, I've currently got 17 reptiles, 19 aquariums, 5 tarantulas, and then who knows, a couple hundred rats or ASFs. So I've got a plate full, but you know, you have to stop yourself at some point because it's never ending what you want. Like I said, for as far as throwing in an extra ball python or a crested gecko or even a fish is not as big as the deal. But when you take on a whole different kind of reptile, that's a whole nother type of job, you know. I had to talk myself out of I really love the albino iguanas. Now the green iguanas, they can be a little, you know, temperamental and hard to deal with, but the albinos are a lot more laid back. But that's another animal that gets huge, and I've got enough animals that get huge.
Oh, there's a
Uh,
picture. I can't look
uh,
at it without leaving the screen because I'm on my phone. I'll be checking it out though.
Another one I'd like to get into is hognose snakes. My wife really likes them, and she thinks they're cute, and they are pretty adorable. But the right now, if I get into hognose, I'm going to want to breed them, and I'm trying to stay focused on breeding for ball pythons. Um, and you know, there's some different things with hognose, like feeding the young is a little harder to get to feed because they eat amphibians in the wild, and also the main thing I have to say that's keeping me out of hognose. You can get on Morph Market and you can find adult ball pythons. If you go on Morph Market and look for adult hognose, it don't exist basically.
Really?
Yeah, there might be 3 or 4 snakes on there that are an adult, and it's probably all males. So if you want to get into hognose, you have to play the game. You got to buy the snake and grow it up for a couple years.
Well, Susie Q, that's on our panel, that's her dream snake is a tricolor hognose, but her partner says no because he doesn't want.
Mike just got one too.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
where I
that's
was
really
going with that. Was that he got one a tricolor and he named it Q after Susie Q, and to rub it
Oh,
out in
that's
the
cool.
face.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
I think they're cute, but I like my corn snakes better, especially the price.
Yeah, that's true. Hognoses are expensive. I have to say the super condas are probably my favorite too. The exanthic pastel super condas, those are nice. Solid white with like the gray streaks on the sides. Those are super cool.
The couple on Snake Discovery breed a lot of hognoses. They're really growing their population. They're breeding couples.
Yeah, they've been a big key factor in the popularity of them. I mean, people like what people like regardless, but they've definitely helped it out. We love Snake Discovery. That's my wife's favorite of all the YouTube I watch. We watch basically all of their stuff.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're super cool people, super nice.
Yeah,
You couldn't ask for a better influence on the hobby.
no, you couldn't. And they give so much back too, apparently, and you just hear about a fraction of it. I think that they really are great. Plus
Yeah,
all the breeding they're doing and education. I just love them. You can't beat them.
yeah, and I will say, even though I'm breeding ball pythons, which I like ball pythons, they're my favorite snake. They don't breed ball pythons just because so many people do. You know, they work with a lot of stuff that people don't. Like those bull snakes. Heck, I wouldn't want to mess with them bull snakes. They get big and they're bitey, you know.
Yeah,
But they put a really good light on them. They make
Yeah.
you want one if you watch their videos.
oh yeah, they do. I don't see them do much about corn snake, but yeah, they do the bull snakes. They had me wanting bull snakes. I saw them at Repticon a few months ago, and I almost bought a $400 red bull snake. It was a baby, and I talked myself out of that.
Them bull snakes, they get decent size, and some of them are super friendly, and some of them will latch on you as soon as you open the tub. You know, which
And
I mean, I've been bit. I mean, you're gonna get bit, but it's not that bad. But at the same time, I do construction, and I can take a hit with a hammer, but I don't want to get hit with a hammer.
No. An 8-foot snake packs a wallet no matter what kind of dentures it's got. Kind of Yeah, that'll hurt.
I've seen them breed. I don't know as far as just corn snakes, but I know they breed a hybrid rat corn snakes. They're called rat corns.
Yeah. I've seen those on Morph Market actually. And they look like corn snakes, I guess, because they're still small, but I'm thinking they're going to get twice the size of a corn snake, though.
If one colubrid I'd like to have, honestly, they're just the basic snake, is the garter snakes. I think garter snakes are pretty cool. You can keep them in groups. They eat fish, so if you don't, they can eat rodents too, but if you're not into rodents, you can feed them fish. They give live birth. They're pretty awesome too.
They really are.
And
there's some cool morphs out there, and plus some of the natural ones are just beautiful colors.
They have really stinky musk though.
They do, but you know that's almost all colubrids can musk you. But if you train them to get used to you, then it's not as bad.
Dragon Lair's had them before.
But that's one of the reasons why, though. I don't like the idea of getting musked on either. But if you ever see a baby albino garter snake, they're adorable.
Yeah. So far, the only snake that's musked me is my tricolor milk snake, my Pueblan milk snake. It actually got out, and I don't know what made me look over at its tank, but it was on top of it, and of course it ran like heck when I went that way. I did catch it, but it paid me back. It got me good. That stuff stinks.
There's a local guy named, I want to say his name is Michael H. Michael H. He breeds these solid black milk snakes. They come out looking like a tricolored, but they turn all black. Those things are gorgeous. You'll see him handling them, the adults, and it'll make you want one. I've considered them.
I could check him out. You said that about keeping the garter snakes in groups. I'm keeping my corn snakes in a group, and the way I've done it is start them all out small. Hatchlings are just a little bigger, and I just added another juvenile, but he's about half the size of the others. And I know the dangers that they might eat each other, and I know all that. And so far, only one of them's a street punk. It's the one I have to watch when I'm feeding, and of course, it's the smallest, or second to smallest now. But it'll take on any of the snakes in there to try to get their food away from them. So I have to feed it separate and, kind of referee that situation. But they don't fight at all. They all lay together. Now, I know that might change, when they mature.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping close eye on them. So I hope that I'm not sorry, but we'll see.
I'm not against cohabbing. Some people are really against it. I think reptiles get a lot harder game on cohabs. In the fish industry, community tanks, it's a very common thing. And even some odd pairings that even fish people would go against sometimes work. But that's like my crested geckos. I cohab my male and female. A lot of people will say you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. But the guy I got them from always kept them together, and I've always kept them together. I've never had an issue. So, but like you said, monitor and watch and know the risks. But it's not always a bad thing.
I've got two of my new little ball pythons. There's a killer bee and then a banana, and they get along great. And they sleep under the same hide usually and all that. And they're good when I feed them. They just, do their own thing. They don't fight or try to get the food away. So,
I don't cohab my ball pythons, of course, unless I'm breeding. But I've heard plenty of stories of people that keep an adult and a female ball python together, and they just wait till eggs come out and they get them, and They leave the snakes together. Now, of course, do your own research and find out before you just go do it. But there are people that do it.
Jenny Lynn's got a question there for you. She says that the pinstripe morph is one I would love to get one day. Any other morph mixed with the pinstripe that Keepercain suggests really make them better?
So one thing I'm pursuing it right now with my mix is the banana pin. I'm going to try to get some of those. They're really nice. I like a banana pin because it's basically just a yellow pinstripe, so it looks super cool. That'd be something cool to name like Pikachu or something. And another one I'll give to Mojave mixed with pinstripe makes a kingpin, and so basically what it does is it makes a thick stripe down the back and then still has that pinstripe coming off the sides. That looks really cool too. So I would definitely check into Mojave and banana if you want to mix those in with them.
Dansley suggested lemon blast pastel pinstripe, and they're making a purple hair. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, pinstripe's one of the OGs, so there's a lot that can be done with it. And I think there's still potential for it.
Nice. This all takes space and time.
Yeah.
And
you got to enjoy it. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a hobby. And if you don't enjoy it, you'll burn out and quit. So just make sure you love it. And if you do, it's a fun thing to pursue.
There's something in the chat there. Oh, they're just teasing each other about smelling like snake musk.
I wouldn't know. I haven't got to experience that yet. I'm sure it's no fun though.
No, it's gross stuff too.
I clean rat tubs though. Can't be no worse than cleaning rat tubs.
It is worse than that.
Oh no.
And it's so concentrated, just a small amount goes a long way.
Yeah.
Mojave already, so maybe a female pin. Oh, good, Jenny. Have a Mojave already, so maybe looking for a female pin then. I've got a female pin stripe. That's the one I've been talking about that I had to force feed.
Yeah, look up a kingpin. They're really nice. And then if you really want to go all out and still put banana on top of that and get a kingpin banana, that'd be sweet.
Hey, Susan for SLC Aquatics, welcome. We're just about to close out. Been talking about snakes, wrangling snakes. Hey, snakes.
Yeah, Noodle is wired up.
Cain, any closing thoughts or advice? Or we didn't talk much about the pets that you had got, the snakes and reptiles that you didn't keep.
Just a short bit. I won't go over what I've got and then didn't keep, but mainly, keep what you enjoy. If you get something and, all of this stuff poops, all this stuff eats, and all of it requires you to clean it and feed it. So, don't just go buying an animal every week and then selling it and not liking it. But at the same time, don't be afraid to try an animal out. But if you get an animal and you just find yourself hating life, like, I just do not want to clean this thing's cage, or I just do not want to deal with this, then don't keep it, because if you don't love it, it's never going to prosper and do good, So that's me. I've kept some things that I just didn't enjoy cleaning up after. I didn't enjoy looking at it the same. So I got rid of that stuff, and I kept the stuff I did enjoy.
I have to admit, I don't mind cleaning up my reptile enclosures nearly as much as I hate scooping cat litter. I've got to do it every day. Every day.
Might be time to get rid of the cats. No, I'm just kidding.
No, they're my babies.
We've got an outdoor cat named Spotty. She's a sweetheart. She was a stray that came and never left.
Oh, well, that's good. You took care of her. Awesome. All right, Pam, you got anything else?
Nope. It was a good show as always.
Yeah. Cain
Yeah.
is a real good guest. And
I appreciate you guys having me.
We're going to have you on sometime for fish because that's actually he's
And one of us needs to get a hold of Brandon and fix up a date
Right.
for him to come on.
Yeah,
Cain
definitely.
I think Cain is the president of the Knoxville Fish Club. If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I'm president of the ETAA. I was gonna wear my shirt, and I was running late on time and couldn't find it. But yeah, I'd love to talk fish. I love fish too.
Yeah, and you've got some nice fish. I watch your videos, of course. But yeah, we kind of building up. We started with the spiders and then the reptiles and fish. We'll get to that next, maybe.
That'd be awesome. I'm ready anytime. You just let me know.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming back again, Cain. Always a great guest, and I always learn stuff. That's for sure. So.
I appreciate you guys having me. Y'all are all awesome too.
Thank you. We appreciate your support. You're a great supporter of what we're doing too here, so I appreciate that. All right, everybody in the chat, thank y'all for showing up and listening, and most of you are fish people, some of you are reptile people, so we appreciate your support.
Yep, Grasshopper, I've got my blow torches all ready to go.
All right. Thank you, moderators, and thanks to chat for joining in, asking questions, and filling in answers and your experiences. That means a lot. People that have experience, that helps so much. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Everybody.
See you guys.